Hey everybody, I'm really excited to share with you our awesome yearbook cameras. The name of the camera is the Rebel T7 and it's made by Canon. And the first thing I want to do is show you what's inside your camera bag when you check it out to take some pictures of school events. So when you open up your bag, of course you're going to find your beautiful, gorgeous Rebel T7. Whew! Gorgeous camera right there. You will also find a camera strap in this bag. I'm going to show you how to attach it in just a moment in case you get a camera bag where the strap is not attached yet. Let's see what else is in this bag. We've got something called a tulip lens hood. I'll tell you more about that later on. You've got a lens cap, which you will not be using at all this year. This is for me at the end of the year to cover up the lenses, but you don't need it. We'll just keep it in the bag so we don't lose it. You'll also have an extra memory card just in case you go absolutely hog wild with taking pictures and you run out of room on the memory card that's already inside the camera. Next up, we've got our charging packet. The number on the packet matches with the number on your bag. We've got a USB thumbnail drive just in case you need it to save your photos. Again, this is in case you're going crazy with the pictures. Let's see what we've got in the front of the bag. Oh, the manual. That's great. That's where I got all my information for this video, so you should check it out too if you're interested. We've got a couple papers in the front pocket for the warranty on the camera, so don't lose those. Last but not least, you do have a tiny little packet of silicone pebbles, and that is very important to keep the interior of your camera bag nice and dry. Now that we know all the parts and pieces that are in the bag, let's talk really quick about camera care. Y'all, this is a very, very fancy camera. We want to make sure that we treat her right, okay? So here are some camera care rules. First of all, don't get the camera wet, please. And second of all, don't drop it. And you know what will help you not drop it is if we attach the camera strap, which I'll teach you about in just a minute. Another thing is you don't want to point the camera directly at the sun or at a really bright, intense, artificial light source. That could not only hurt your eyes, but it can hurt the interior of the camera too. And always put the lens cap on and switch the camera off, and then put the camera back in the bag after you're using it. So again, lens cap on, camera off, camera in the bag when you're done. Last but certainly not least, please keep your camera in a temperature controlled environment. So that means we want to keep the camera at a comfortable temperature. If it's too hot for you, it's too hot for the camera. If it's too cold for you, it's too cold for the camera. So that means please do not leave the camera in your hot car. That's probably the biggest mistake that people make. We're almost ready to start taking some pictures, folks, so don't worry. I just wanted to show you really quickly how to remove and replace the lens cap, as well as how to turn on and off the camera so that we can follow those camera care rules. So let's watch one more time. Squeeze above and below the Canon logo to release the lens cap. And to turn the camera on, to use it, just find the on-off switch on top of the camera and switch it to on, right? You'll see immediately that the LCD screen will light up. Remember to put your camera away, switch the camera off, and make sure to replace that lens cap. That makes sure that the expensive lens on this camera doesn't get smashed or cracked. And just a reminder, every single time you are done shooting photos, you need to make sure that your camera gets safe and sound back in its cushioned bag, okay? Now, let's learn about how to attach the camera strap. That's really important to learn because that's how you're gonna really help yourself not drop this camera. It's kind of heavy, so if you have the camera strap hanging around your neck and you accidentally let go of this thing, it's not gonna drop to the ground and break. So, if your camera strap is not attached yet, here's how to do it. First, make sure that the Canon logo is facing up. And once it's oriented the right direction, find one end of the camera strap. It should be kind of wrapped up in a plastic sheath like this. And what you're gonna do is pull the end out until it's released all the way and you can slide the sheath back and forth. Now again, double check that the Canon logo is facing up towards you basically. And we're gonna take the end of this camera strap and we're gonna loop it from the outside into the metal loop on top of the camera. So notice I'm going from the outside of the camera towards the inside of the camera. That's really important. Then thread it through just like a needle and thread. And you're gonna wanna pull the end out far enough so that it's about the length of your hand. There might even be a little fold in the strap that'll help you know exactly where to pull it through to. Cool. Now what we need to do is loop the end back through the plastic sheath again, like so, and pull it so that both sides of the strap are flush or flat against each other. There's just one more step for this end of the strap, and that is to thread it through the plastic movable slider ring right here. What we're going to do is loop the end under and back up through. To do that, it makes it a lot easier if you pull out the strap that's already fed through it to create some space. And I've pulled the end down through the plastic piece, and now I'm going to thread it back up through the plastic piece. See that? It kind of did a dolphin dive over and under the plastic piece, and I'll pull it tight and double check that it's secure. Oh yeah, looking good. My Canon logo is still facing me, and now all I have to do is repeat the steps on this side, and I'll just be quiet so you can watch it. Very good. I'm just gonna do a double check. I wanna make sure I put it on the right way. Yep, the Canon logo is facing me, and so we can do some Canon repping while we take pictures. And also I did just a quick gentle test to make sure those straps aren't gonna give right when I put it on, because that would just stink. So next, let's talk about this tulip lens hood. First of all, what is it for? You would use this tulip lens hood if you were outside taking pictures of maybe a soccer game on a really bright sunny day. What it does is it adds a little bit of shade to the lens, kind of like when you take your hand and you put it up to your forehead on a bright day to shade your eyes so you can see better. It's exactly like that, but for a camera. So we know what it is, we know what it's called, let's figure out how to put it on. On the bottom, you'll see this kind of gear-shaped circle, and what you're gonna do is twist it righty-tighty until it moves all the way down to the little tulip hood. See? Now we can see the threads of like a screw on the bottom, and it's ready to be placed on the end of our lens. So of course, take off the lens cap, gently line up the tulip lens hood onto the end of the lens. You gotta make sure it's aligned. That's probably the toughest part, but once it is, righty-tighty to screw it on. Don't overdo it. As soon as it gets snug, you're good. And now you are ready to take gorgeous pictures on a bright, sunny day. You don't have to use this lens hood all the time, of course. Just when you realize, oh hey, it's really bright out here, I'm gonna attach my tulip lens hood. Don't keep it on all the time because it won't fit in the camera bag, so to take it off, just lefty-loosey to unscrew it and put it away. Okay, we're almost ready to take a picture, but not quite yet. First, I want to show you where the battery pack is, where the memory card is, how to get to it, and how to take it out and stuff. So if you look at the bottom of the camera, you will see a little door. When you open the door up, you'll see the battery pack. release the battery pack by pressing the little gray switch that you just saw, and it's gonna pop right out of there. And to charge this old thing, you're gonna grab your charging pack. Again, the number matches the bag number. Take a look and find the metal prongs in there, because you're gonna have to match up the metal prongs in the battery pack to the metal prongs in the charging pack. Slide it in until it clicks, and then turn it around, flip down the plug it into the wall. It's easy as that. It's got two lights. A charge light will be red when it's not charged all the way, and then the light by full will be green, and it'll light up once it is fully charged. To take out the battery pack, place your thumb in this space right here, push slightly inward, and the battery pack should pop right out again. To replace the battery once it's all charged, double check again the metal prongs. See the metal prongs inside? They need to match up with the battery pack. Make sure that happens, and then push in the battery until the little gray switch clicks. Now let's talk about the memory card. You're gonna have to take the memory card out to get your pictures on the computer so that we can actually put them in the yearbook, right? So here's where the memory card is. To eject it, simply gently push down. To replace it, make sure that the logo of the memory card is facing up to the sky, and push it in until it clicks. And of course, always make sure you shut the door when you're all done messing with the battery and the memory card. We are almost ready to start snapping pictures and talking about the different modes of this camera, but we have a few more things to talk about first. First of all, make sure that the strap for the camera is around your pretty little neck. I mean, we did all that work to attach the strap, we might as well use it. Second of all, there is a grip on the camera for your right hand, and right here is the button to take the pictures. With your other hand, make sure you're holding underneath the lens. So you always want to be using two hands. This is also so that you can zoom in. It's called telephoto when you zoom in, fancy, and when you zoom out, just by twisting the lens like this. When you zoom out, the fancy word for it is called wide angle lens. Remember, depending on what you're taking a picture of, you might want to tilt the camera so it takes a vertical up and down picture instead, but always follow the two-handed rule. Trust me, you don't want to be paying for this camera if you drop it and break it. Okay. Make sure your cameras are switched on. Make sure your lens cap is off. Make sure that the camera strap is around your neck. And once all of those things are in place, you are ready to choose your camera mode and snap some pictures. This wheel on top of the camera is how you will choose your camera mode. Now, I'm sorry to say it, folks, but we all basic here. We need to make sure that we're using the basic modes of this camera. That's because we're beginners, right? We're not professional photographers quite yet. The professional fancy settings are within this silver bracket on the wheel. It's M, A, V, T, V, and P. We're not going to be using or talking about those settings because those are for professionals, and we're not to the professional level yet. Sorry guys, we're basic. So we're going to be using the basic settings on this camera. And there are a lot of them. If you take a look at the bottom half of this circle, all of these little settings here are the basic settings. Let's talk about setting number 1 in the basic mode. It's green. It's called A+ mode. It's like the most basic of basic settings. If you're set on A+ mode, you are ready to take a picture of anything. Some people call it the point and shoot mode because you can just set it and forget it. So to get to A+, simply turn the wheel until the little white mark is matching up with the green A+. Make sure your camera is on. You can do this by gently tapping the shutter button on the front, and it will make your LCD screen light up. On your LCD screen, there's really two things you might want to take a peek at, and that is what setting you're on. Up in the top left corner, we're in A+. Perfect, that's what we want. And down at the bottom to the left is how much battery you've got left. Cool. Now we're set to A+. It's point and shoot mode. It's easy peasy. Let's take a look through our viewfinder and see what we can see. Ooh, when you look through the viewfinder, you'll see 9 polka dots. These are called autofocus points, and the picture turns out the best when the subject you're taking a picture of is underneath one of those autofocus points. So, to focus the camera, it's kind of blurry right now, we're gonna press the shutter button just halfway. Ooh, when you press the shutter button halfway, you'll see when it's done focusing, green numbers pop up on the bottom. Did you catch that? Once you see those green numbers, you're ready to push the shutter button down all the way like that to take the picture. Now, don't be afraid if the auto flash hinge flips up. It kind of scared me the first time around. I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? It's okay, you can just push it back down. The auto flash is set to on when you're in A+ mode, so it might flash automatically if you're in a dark space. Now, let's take a look at the picture that we just took. Here's how you do that. Press the play button down at the bottom. It's like a sideways triangle. And once you press it, you can see the picture that you just took. If you want to see more than one picture at a time, you're going to go to the top right of the camera. It looks like a little grid and a magnifying glass with a minus sign inside. If you press that, you'll be able to see 4 pictures at once. Ooh, if you press it again, you'll be able to see 9 pictures at once. Pretty cool. Now, to move around and select the pictures you want to look at, you'll notice there's like a yellow box that goes around the picture that's currently selected. To move the box, you're going to press one of the arrow keys. These are actually arrow keys around the set button in the middle. So you can move it to the right, to the left, up or down to select the picture you want to see. And press set, the middle button, to actually click on the picture to see it a little bigger. You can also take a closer look at any photo by selecting it and then pressing the magnifying glass with the plus sign in it. You'll see a little white box appear, and that's the spot where it's going to be zooming in. You can move the box with the arrow keys, and I'm going to zoom in right here on the brown polka dots of this banana. Ooh, so artistic. I love it. To zoom back out, of course, you're going to press the zoom out button, which is the magnifying glass with the minus sign in it. Pretty user friendly. Last thing I want to show you is how to delete a picture if you took a stinker. So select the photo you want to delete and press the button up here that has a bunch of stuff on it, but it also has a little blue trash can. Press that, move the arrow to erase, and press set. And the picture is gone forever. That's just about all you need to know for A+ mode. The next mode on the camera wheel looks like this, and it is the no flash mode. It's basically A+ mode, but the scary auto flash will never pop up, no matter if it's dark, light, whatever. You can use that mode for museums or performances that don't allow flash photography, right? That way, if you're set to no flash mode, you know you're safe. So that explains that mode. For now, we're going to skip the mode next on the wheel that's called CA, Creative Auto, and we're going to move the wheel to this cute little person right here. The person picture means that you are on portrait mode. That means the camera is all set to take a beautiful picture of a person or an animal or a living subject. The reason that portrait mode makes portraits so awesome looking is because it blurs the background and it softens skin and hair, so the person looks really, really good. Some tips for portrait mode are: choose a location where the background is either very simple or the background is far away. And what you're going to want to do is zoom in. Use the telephoto lens to zoom in and fill the frame with the subject. Once you've found somebody to take a portrait of and you look through the viewfinder, you're gonna see a bracket pop up that's gonna find the face, and it will automatically zoom in on the face and slightly blur the background for you. Now, what if you want to take a self-portrait, a picture of yourself? Well, what you're gonna wanna do is press the Q button, that stands for quick control, and use the arrow keys to scooch that yellow highlighted box over to self timer. We have a self timer for 10 seconds. That means you've got 10 seconds to get yourself ready. If you scooch the yellow box all the way over to the right, it goes to self timer continuous. That means that after 10 seconds, it's gonna keep taking pictures until you tell it to stop. So, to take a self-portrait, screw the camera on top of a tripod, press Q for quick control, click it over to the self-timer, either continuous or after 10 seconds, press the shutter button, and it's going to give you a 10-second countdown to get in front of the camera, get yourself prepared for your self-portrait. Now that we know a bunch of stuff about portrait mode, how to take a self-portrait, why to even go to portrait mode in the first place, let's click the wheel to the next little picture, which is a picture of mountains and clouds. This is called landscape mode. Of course, the best time to use landscape mode is when you're taking a picture of nature, of a landscape. And the reason that it's good to use is because it makes everything in focus. The stuff that's near to the camera, all the way to the stuff that's far out in the distance. It's all gonna be in focus. And also it makes blues and greens extra vivid. So it makes for very sharp, crisp images of a landscape. Some tips while you're in landscape mode is to not use the telephoto. Don't zoom in. Keep the camera zoomed out in wide angle. Also, in landscape mode, the flash is disabled, so you might want to use a tripod to prevent camera shake. Well, that's it for landscape mode. Let's click the wheel down one more notch to get to the flower picture. The flower picture stands for close-up mode. Close-up mode is, of course, perfect for shooting pictures of flowers or of small things up close. A couple of tips when you're in close-up mode, taking a picture of something small like this little frog, is to use a simple background and to zoom in as close as possible. So you're going to want to use that telephoto lens. Once everything is in place, push the shutter button halfway to get those green lights to pop up at the bottom, then press all the way to take the picture. If you need it, the built-in flash is going to pop up and fire automatically, so don't get spooked by it. When I play back the image, it looks really good. It's like zoomed in, it's in high detail, even though it's such a small object. So that's it for close-up mode. Let's move on to the next one. The next mode we're going to talk about is food mode. So we're going to skip over the running man here and click it on over to the tiny fork and knife on your wheel. Now, obviously, food mode is perfect for taking pictures of food because what it does is it makes the food in the photo look bright and appetizing by suppressing the reddish tinge of photos taken under artificial light, which usually we're eating food inside, so it gives it a weird light that makes it look not yummy, but food mode changes that. One tip for food mode is to change the color tone to match the food. I'm going to show you in just a moment how to change the color tone from either warm to cool. Now, depending on the food that you're taking a picture of, if the food is a warm color, red, orange, or yellow, then you're going to want to match it to change it to warm tones. If the food you're taking a picture of is a cool color like green, purple, or blue, you're going to want to change the color tone to a cool tone. So here's how you do that. Of course, make sure you're on food mode and the camera is on, and then press the Q quick control button. Use your arrow keys to select the color temperature gauge. So that's going to be shifting up one space and you'll see the yellow box goes up to this color temperature gauge that goes from red, the warm colors, to blue, the cool colors. So again, depending on what you're shooting a picture of, you're going to want to change that gauge to warm or cool. Like, for example, I'm going to pretend that this red flashlight is a red food. Since red is a warm color, if I set the temperature gauge to a warm tone, then the picture at the end is going to look really nice. Check it out. The colors are robust and full. On the other hand, if I took a picture of this red, warm colored flashlight and I set my temperature gauge to the cool side, the blue side, then when I take my picture of this warm colored flashlight, the picture is going to look all sorts of washed out. Check it out compared to the picture to the left of the flashlight. That was taken in the warm setting and the picture just looks so much nicer. So remember, try to match the color family of the food you're taking a picture of and it'll turn out great. That's it for food mode. Before we click the wheel to the next little picture, let's talk about how to do something called live view shooting. That's when instead of looking through the viewfinder to take the picture, you actually look through the LCD screen. To do that, press the little button to the right of the viewfinder that has a little camera on it, and then right away you'll be able to see the shot through the LCD screen. You'll probably notice that in the center of the shot there's going to be a little white rectangle. That is the autofocus point. So when the camera autofocuses, it's going to focus on that rectangle. And you can move around the autofocus point with your arrow keys. You can move it up, down, left, or right. It's pretty nifty. One pro tip for live view shooting through the LCD screen is to use a tripod because camera shake is a thing. Now to me, the coolest part of doing live view shooting is that you can choose a grid option to help you take a picture using the rule of thirds. Remember, the rule of thirds, it's not really a rule, it's more of a guideline of design that a picture looks more interesting if you put the focus point of the picture on the crosshairs of a tic-tac-toe board going across your shot. So to get a fancy tic-tac-toe grid on your shot, you're going to press the menu button down here, and you're going to use your arrow keys to shift over to camera 2. It's the second red camera picture to the right, and you're going to shift down to grid display. Press the set button and scooch down to grid 1. Check it out, it looks just like a tic-tac-toe board. Press set, and you are all set. To get rid of the menu again, press menu, and through the viewfinder, now you can see a gorgeous grid, and this will really help you put the focus point on one of the crisscrossing parts of the grid. So let me get my little froggy friend back out again to show us exactly how to take a shot using the rule of thirds. So I'm going to put Mr. Frog right in one of the crosshairs of the grid, click halfway down to focus and all the way down to take the actual picture. The auto flash popped up. It scared me a little bit, but man, was it worth it. That's a good picture. The composition is a lot more interesting using the rule of thirds rather than putting the frog right in the middle of the picture. Our eye has a lot more fun looking at that picture that way. Get out of live view shooting and back to looking through the viewfinder, press the little camera button again. And then you'll be able to look through the viewfinder instead. It's a lot more steady of a shot. Just try to keep those grid lines in your head when you take your next photo. Next up on our camera wheel settings, we are going to talk about sports mode. So take your little wheel and shift it all the way to the running man picture. And we are going to do some shooting in sports mode. Sports mode is of course used for shooting moving subjects like a running person, people playing football, or a moving car, or whatever you want to take a picture of that's moving. Some tips while you're in sports mode is to zoom in, use a telephoto lens. Hover the middle autofocus point over the moving subject, press the shutter button halfway to autofocus, and then as soon as it's focused, hold down the shutter button all the way to shoot continuously. I'm going to keep the camera in live view shooting so that you can see how when I am taking a picture of my moving hand, I'm just going to wave my hand back and forth and press the button down all the way. It's going to continually take photos. It takes about 3 photos every second. So check it out. From pushing down the shutter button continuously, it continuously took pictures of my moving hand, and I got a bunch of different shots of it. So like imagine if this was a football player making a tackle and you were in sports mode, continually press down the shutter button and then you'll have a bunch of pictures to choose from and you can choose the best one that you like. It's pretty nifty. Just remember that sports mode works the best when you're in telephoto, zoomed in, and press the shutter button down continually to take lots and lots of pictures per second. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to go backwards on the wheel, back to the one we skipped at the very beginning. Go to CA on your camera. This is called Creative Auto. Creative Auto mode is great for ambience control. Basically, in today's terms, you can add filters to the camera to take really cool shots. You can also control the blurring of the background in Creative Auto. And to do that, press the Q Quick Control button and use your arrow keys to scooch up to the image that shows a little person with a background on it. And if you use your right and left arrow keys, it will blur the background more or less. It's really cool, especially for portraits. So here you can see I took a picture of my hand and I really blurred the background for it, and it looks extra fancy. My hand looks really sharp and in focus, but the background is all blurred. So that is really cool. Another really fancy schmancy thing that you can do while you're in Creative Auto mode is to take a monochromatic picture. All that means is that your picture is going to be different shades of one color, and there are 3 choices on this camera. You can take a black and white photo, you can take an orange hued photo, or you can take a blue hued photo. To get to the monochromatic settings and also for the ambience settings or the filters, you're going to be in Creative Auto mode. Press Q for quick control. Make sure the yellow highlighter box is on the standard setting. When you press set, then it's going to open a huge drop-down menu of vivid, soft, warm, intense, cool, brighter, darker filters. You can select one of those, or you can go all the way to the bottom and select monochrome. From there, you can use the left and right arrow keys to switch from blue to black and white to orange. Check me out taking all 3 different monochrome photos. Blue is first, and then I'll take an orange photo, and last, a black and white. Check out these 3 monochromatic photos I took. Here is the black and white, the orange, and the blue. Awesome. There are only 2 more basic modes left on the wheel that we haven't talked about, so let's cover them. Let's talk about night mode. It shows a little person with a star behind them, and the main reason to use night mode is to take beautiful night scenes and obtain a natural and attractive lighting. Tips for taking pictures in night mode are to zoom out or use a wide angle lens, use a tripod, and watch out for that auto flash because it might just pop up on its own. The very last setting in basic mode is the little camera at the very end, and that of course is to shoot video. We're not going to talk very much at all about shooting video because we're not going to be using that for yearbook this year. But oh my gosh, you guys, we did it. We talked about every single setting on the wheel in basic mode because we're basic still. And now we can finally put our cameras away by putting on the lens cap, turning off the camera, and making sure our camera goes safe and sound in its comfy little bag. Thanks for hanging in there with me, you guys. I know it was a lot of information to cover, but now you are ready to take as many photos as you can to make our yearbook an amazing, great thing. Rock on, guys. See you later.